producers, they just started making beats a week ago, a month ago. They're still emulating their favorite producer and they're copying them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we all learn. We copy our favorite producer. We copy our favorite rapper to figure out how to make music at a basic level. And then we expand on that. The thing now is that somebody who just started making beats and is copying their favorite producer can now go online and share those beats and sell them.
I mean, to me, that's just super out of pocket.
Well, we'll talk about it. What's going on, everyone? It's the Music Entrepreneur Club, episode 110, which I'm sure is a special number. Someone in the comment section will educate me, as they have been, about the significance of numbers. We are presented by and powered by BeatStars, beatstars.live, twice a week, Monday and Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's how you access our free music business mentorship program. I was going to ask how you're feeling, Dane, but I'm going to ask if you're all right, because it's the middle of summer and you got a hoodie on.
No, I'm good. I just finished the workout. Actually, I got up, did a workout, didn't have enough time to take a shower before the podcast, but yeah.
So I'm hiding all the sweat and grease.
Yeah, I just look a hot mess. So, the podcast is of the utmost importance. So I had to at least look somewhat presentable before I hopped on here.
We have high standards, man. Really high standards on this podcast in terms of physical appearance. I look like I was hit by a truck. There was a tornado and a severe thunderstorm last night, and we had the damn siren go on at like 2 a.m. And apparently I moved into a neighborhood that has one of those siren things like right on the corner. So it was loud. Among other things that happened, being worried about loved ones and so forth, because people were scared and justifiably so, but we're good.
I meant to ask you, Pan, I know you don't care too much about basketball, but the Bucks won. Does that mean more parties to DJ? Does anything for you? Like,
it means people are cockier out here, which is good. No, because look, man, like, yeah, I don't follow sports, but I know for a fact we haven't had much to be proud of in that universe for a while, especially not in terms of basketball. Yeah, UW basketball, sure, we've had some cool moments, but definitely not at the pro level. So, and then there's all this stuff going on with Aaron Rodgers. I don't even want to talk about that. So the Bucks took, hopefully temporarily, it took people's minds off all that.
The Bucks fans actually weren't that bad. You know, a lot of fans of teams that have won a lot are annoying to people because they win a lot. And some fans are just really annoying. Some Lakers fans are super annoying. I think the Dallas Cowboy fans are probably the most annoying fans ever. But I think the Bucks fans, I think they were pretty solid. I was more annoyed with the Phoenix Suns fans. Like, some of them were jumping out the window, because you never really know what kind of fans you have until you get a little taste of success. And I saw a lot of Phoenix Suns fans act super ridiculous. So it was a sign that their team had never won anything before. But yeah, you don't really know what kind of fans you have until you have some success. But I thought the Bucks fans were solid. Happy for him. Happy for Giannis. And we can move on because I know, again, you don't follow sports. But
well, yeah, no, but thanks for saying that. We didn't light anything on fire. We didn't riot, nothing. So yeah, I think that reflects well on our state, and especially Milwaukee, which is, Milwaukee needs some love. They definitely do. Especially in the music business, people are always like, no one's come out of Milwaukee. I'm like, yeah, a lot of people came out of Milwaukee. Tony Neal, Tank, K-Camp.
Tank is from Milwaukee?
Yeah, Tank. Rico Love is from Milwaukee. Arrested Development. There are a lot of artists from Milwaukee that people know of but don't know where they're from.
Nice. Shout out Milwaukee.
Yeah, they deserve it. Okay, cool. So we were going to talk about, I know you're ready to rant, which means I have to be the level-headed one today, which is cool because I'm exhausted. But we've been meaning to talk about T-Pain and his statements for a while, and that's another rant. T-Pain was, I believe, just to contextualize it, because I think people were interpreting his ranting as him asserting that all modern rap sounds the same. And to me, I want to be careful about how we interpret what he was saying, because the context was that he had these online music reviews. So he was getting music sent to him by the artists themselves. So unsigned, undiscovered artists. So I'm pretty sure that's what inspired that rant. He was seeing the pattern of similarities between these unsigned artists, and he was, one, probably annoyed by it, and two, also trying to give helpful advice, which is to not sound like artists who are already famous, because that's probably not the best creative strategy for you as someone who wants to get in the music business. I don't know, Dan, what are your first impressions?
Number one, I think T-Pain is starting to figure out the internet and his personality on the internet. Like, he knows how to create moments now. So I think that he's coming into, and he's been doing it for a while. He's been going live on Twitch and doing his thing, but I think he is getting super comfortable with his internet personality, and he has more control over like just creating moments like this. So I think he knew what he was doing, and he knew the potential of that moment. So I think a lot of it is just show, for his show, for his streaming show, and the potential for it to go viral. But are a lot of artists making music that sounds the same? Yes. And I think the reason for that is a lot of reasons. One, I think labels continue to invest in artists that sound the same because it's working. So I think the labels have a hand in that. I also think that music has become a lot less expensive to try to make. So a lot of people are trying to make music. And when you're in your infancy, your beginning stages of making music, you are going to mimic what you hear. Like, that's just what happens. And I don't think most people that make music are really, I would say, this is just an assumption, but I would say most people that make music aren't like really focusing on the craft. Like, they're having fun and they're kind of just mimicking what they hear. And they might be in it just for the attention. They might be in it just for the clout. But I would say that there's more people just having fun with it than really trying to become the best artist possible, develop their own sound. So we just hear more of. Now, is there music that sounds different? Of course, there are so many artists out there that have developed their own sound, that have dedicated themselves to the craft. And if you want to find the music, it's there. So I don't think it's a problem. It might have been a problem during this hour in which he was reviewing music and he kept hearing the same thing. But there is definitely diversity in sound and in music today. It may not be as much diversity at the major record labels. It may not be diversity on the radio, but we've said this time and time again, there's a lot of really dope artists out there creating amazing music. So I don't, it was a clip. So I don't think T-Pain was saying that nobody makes different sounding music. Like you said, I think it was just a comment on the music that was being submitted to him during that hour.
Yeah, and I think, unfortunately, it was a viral moment precisely because, one, it resonated with a lot of people, and two, it put a lot of people on the defensive. You know what I mean? Like, anytime we put, like, for example, and this ties into the T-Pain conversation, on either the last podcast or the one before that, we were talking about why DJs, or I was asserting why DJs as a DJ don't play new music in the club, right? And I said, DJs don't play new music in the club because people don't respond well to new music in the club. They only kind of tend to like what's familiar these days. And I'm talking about just general club sets. And people were mad at me saying that, not because they were mad at the situation of there being this need for familiarity and them not getting music in the club. They were mad at me for saying it because apparently what I was actually saying was I don't respect artists and I don't want new artists to shine. And I'm like, you can't win. So if T-Pain comes and says, hey, a lot of people have been sending me music that sounds the same, then it becomes why don't you support the underground? And it's like, I'm talking about the music that was emailed to me.
Yeah,
it kind of isn't that deep, but I think the internet is a wonderful, magical place where people go to vent their frustrations and get defensive over things that don't even apply to them.
but they people are so annoying online when they want to like take something from a video that like the person didn't say or write. Like they have the weirdest ability to do that. There was a clip that I took from a recent MEC session with Benji Grinberg, who is the founder and CEO of Rostrum Records, home to the late great Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa. And I asked him during that session, I said, how do you look at artists differently today in terms of potentially wanting to sign artists than you did in 2003? And he responded and said, well, there's so much more on the artist's shoulders now in terms of needing to do social media, do their own marketing and things like that. And then somebody in the comments responded, you see, that's why the music industry sucks, because they're only signing trolls. I'm like, bro, that's not what he said. That is completely not what he said. He just said, on top of having to, have a strong brand and great music, you have to be active on social media and you have to be consistent. That has nothing to do with being a troll. He does not sign trolls. He signs people that make very good music. But and it wasn't just one person. Like it was like many people that just hear what they want to hear and respond to that, even if the person said nothing like that. And I'm just like, bro, listen to what he said again, because you're responding to your own thoughts and assumptions, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I wonder. This is interesting to me because remember we commented and people were upset with us for this too. We got a lot of defensive comments too. Well, and I understand because T-Pain is just kind of like a national treasure. But remember when T-Pain said that the beat is the most important part of songs these days, and that beats carry the record. It's no longer about the rappers. Mm-hmm. And we kind of responded to that. I think you and I were on the same page as far as us not even wanting that kind of conversation to be out there, just because it causes these generational rifts where, really no one's focusing on what he's saying and addressing that. What ends up happening is people start turning it into a this generation versus last generation kind of thing. And then everyone's just fighting and arguing. It's not a productive conversation. And I think that's interesting because producers aren't exempt from this conversation. So if T-Pain says all music sounds the same, right? So if all the music he's hearing sounds the same, the beat makers have to be responsible for that in part. And I think the same thing applies to them. New artists who are able to just record a new song after, having rapped for only 10 days, they're emulating their favorite artist. So they're going to sound just like Lil Baby. But producers, they just started making beats a week ago, a month ago. They're still emulating their favorite producer and they're copying them. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how we all learn. We copy our favorite producer. We copy our favorite rapper to figure out how to make music at a basic level. And then we expand on that. The thing now is that somebody who just started making beats and is copying their favorite producer can now go online and share those beats and sell them. And now everyone can hear them. And not only that, but an artist that's trying to sound like their favorite rapper and a producer that's trying to sound like the producer that's made beats for that favorite rapper can now meet. And now they're really making music that sounds like what T-Pain would say, all the same. So right. I think we really are in a space where there's a ton of music that does honestly emulate, either intentionally or unintentionally, what we already have. And I understand, like you said, the labels send out these mixed messages, right? Because they on the one hand, they'll sign the weird guy that just did something super crazy and everyone's flocking to because they're so different among this pool of copycats. But then they'll also sign the copycats because they want to hedge their bets. Like I said with the DJ thing, people want to hear what's familiar in the club. And a lot of recording artists and producers look at that environment and look at that as a sign that they need to make music that sounds current, not unique, current. And I think that's a big mistake and miscalculation on their part. But I can see why it's confusing. I don't think fans want you to copy their favorite artist. I think fans want the next cool thing, but most people follow trends. That's why they're called trends. And, most people need other people to like a new artist before they decide to like that artist. That goes back to the DJ convo. So, up until an artist whose style is weird enough, like an MIA or, whoever is coming out, St. John, whoever's coming out that's pushing the envelope a little bit, you kind of need a critical mass of people, and the labels can accelerate that by their marketing campaigns. You need kind of a critical mass of people to tell you that they like this artist so that it becomes okay for you to like this artist. I don't like that that's the way it is. So now I'm looking at the situation now that T-Pain's complaining about, and I'm kind of expanding it out and saying, all right, it's not just the rapper's fault. It's not just the label's fault. It's not just the producer's faults. It's also the fans. So we have this weird perfect storm for confusion and copying. And it's just it kind of sucks right now. But I get what he's saying.
I remember seeing this video. There was these kids, probably in like a kindergarten class, first grade at the most. And, there was a teacher that was like letting the young kids rap. And when they were rapping, they were using like a more current like melody, right? Like today, that like you would recognize like that type of, you would see where the young people were getting that from, like from radio, right? Like, or just current sounds, whether it's Migos or Lil Baby, you can hear who they were trying to mimic. Like if a kid was doing that 20 years ago, you might think something was wrong with them. Like, because it's just a different like of what's cool. Like you said, like the trends are changing and kids are just emulating what's hot. So I can see where it's all coming from. And I think it's okay. So at the end of the day, I think T-Pain just, he's getting good control over his live stream. He knows which areas to poke to get a reaction. Just like if we wanted to get a reaction, we could argue about streaming royalties and like bash Spotify and have people, react to that, even though, streaming has been healthy for a lot of artists. Yes, there's issues with streaming, but, the public thinks that artists don't make any money from streaming. Like there's certain topics and things that we can like just poke and we know we're going to get a reaction if we're just focused on trying to get likes and views and things like that. And I think likes. Yes. And I think this is just one of those topics because a lot of people that are like hip hop purists hate, current music, and you can get them in an uproar if you just say certain things. So I think at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah. Or we can just continue posting content that we think is honest and people can freak out about that. Because if there's no controversy, sometimes people will just make their own.
Yeah, no, like I said, people read into that. You already have your thoughts and assumptions. And if somebody even just reminds you of those, you start to think that that's what they said. And that's what you respond to. And you're really just responding to your own, assumptions, which is crazy. And actually kind of, I worry about today's society.
Yeah, and then and some people do put out information that they know is wrong, and then they'll try to argue and say, "Well, that's not what I said." So yeah, it's a whole mess. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think ultimately T-Pain's advice is good. I think artists, and this is way easier said than done. Way easier said than done. So I'm sorry for what I'm about to say, but if you make beats and if you rap, if you sing, if you write songs, try to be different. If right? What does that even mean? Try to be different. What? How? I can't. No one can teach you how to be different, and that's the problem. Someone can teach you how to write the same melodies as Rod Wave. Well, you can just listen to Rod Wave and just copy what he's doing, or you can just listen to Murder Beats and listen to how he programs his sub bass. But you can't listen to those people and figure out how to be different. That has to come from you. So I don't know what to tell people. There's really no blueprint for being different. That's what gets a lot of people. So again, it's one of those things where, it's like what you say, Dame, not everyone's meant to succeed in the business. And so there are a lot of people who aren't going to figure out how to make themselves unique, either on a musical level or on a branding level. And unfortunately, I'd say the majority of those people, if not all of them, just kind of vanished from the music business.
Well, I think the question people got to ask themselves is, do you have the confidence to try different shit? Like, and maybe get a lot of flack from people that say your shit is trash. Can you go through that and still have the confidence to keep trying and to keep improving over time and be consistent? Like, being an artist is not an easy thing to do. And we talked about this before. Like, you put your music out, people are going to immediately go in and not hold back a thing. So can you, be yourself, be confident in yourself, put out music, and show people that process and develop over time to maybe where you have something a little different? Because in that journey, you're going to endure a lot of crazy feedback, most likely. And do you have the confidence and the courage to, go through that, to get to a point where your stuff is quality and it's different, and you found the people that, really resonate with your message and your art?
Yeah, and I'll just leave on this Oscar Wilde quote, because it's a quote that I really love, and it's one that I've seen over and over again. I think some of the most innovative and greatest art has always been divisive, whether it's controversial because of the content, or, as you said, Dame, whether it's so different that there are going to be people who absolutely hate it and people who absolutely love it. And the quote is, when the critics are divided, the artist is at one with himself. So interpret that as you will. But I think that's something to keep in mind as you're embarking on this journey of finding different ways to express yourself, ones that are more unique to you, that I think in the end will benefit you. I know you wanted to rant about something else that you were a little.
Yeah, well, we can talk about, I'll do my ranting at the end. I wanted to just talk about Rolling Loud. Obviously, Rolling Loud just happened. It was wildly successful in terms of the turnout. But I think there's a lot of things to talk about with regards to Rolling Loud. And number one, should it even have happened right now? Is it responsible to have a festival with tens of thousands? I'm not sure if it reaches the 100,000 mark. It possibly can. It looked like it has the ability to do so. I don't know if the space is big enough. But then, like, just the performances, a lot of people were going in on Coi Leray. I don't know. People just like her as a target. You know what I'm saying? Like, and again, I hope that she's okay. I hope that she's just a person that can just brush it off and is like, look, I understand, people are going to say crazy things and it doesn't affect me because I'm grounded. I have great people around me. I go to my therapist. My mentals are solid. I'm making money. I'm putting out music. I really hope that that's the case for her, because people were going in on her performance, because apparently while she was performing, people weren't as riled up, so the crowd was just less active, or kind of just standing there watching while she was performing. So of course, people took that opportunity to really go in on her. And to be honest, like, from what I saw from the performance, I'm not going to say it was a great performance, but I've seen a lot worse, a hell of a lot worse. She was trying to put on a solid show. I'm not a fan of hers or her music, so I wasn't necessarily into it, but it looked like she was trying to put on a good show. And that's more than what I can say for a lot of artists these days, many of them on the Rolling Loud stage. So that was unfortunate, but the live show is super important. And I think we've talked about this before, Payne, like just the importance of a live show.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, but again, I hope that she's okay. And I hope that the negative stuff online doesn't really bother her. She just understands it's part of the process, and she continues to be successful. But the other thing that I saw after was a tweet from the CEO of Rolling Loud. And it went like this. It said, Rock Nation won't let us stream Uzi, but I'm thinking about just streaming him anyway. I love Jay-Z, but Desiree be on that bullshit. What y'all think? Should I say fuck it and stream him, or play it safe and listen to The Rock? Now, people might think that that's a normal thing to tweet these days, but that's actually wildly out of pocket. Most people like that have been in the business for a long time would say that that's wildly out of pocket. What's your reaction to that tweet, Payne?
It's mixed, and the reason it's mixed and the reason I'm not going to say shit is because I have absolutely no idea what the conversation between Desiree and Tariq was. So I think, as you know, the person that gets a jump on the narrative controls that narrative 9 out of 10 times. So right now, the Rolling Loud CEO has the jump on the Rock Nation CEO because people are reading his tweet first about her, and it at this point for most people doesn't matter what the facts are.
But he's also like galvanizing the fans. Like obviously the fans, without knowing what the conflict was, it sounded like, hey, just don't stream our artists, which they have the right to say if that's the extent of the conversation. He's and this is kind of what, maybe I'm sensitive to this because this is what Hobson did. Like he rushed to social media, he galvanizes fans. I'm not accusing Tariq of spinning the narrative. I don't know what the narrative is, but just to have this tweet online, it kind of shows us like, yes, the fans are the most important. And I don't think Tariq cares because what could Desiree potentially do to Rolling? And that's probably how Tariq is thinking. Like, what could I think she's the CEO of Rock Nation. Like, what could she potentially do to me? My festival is super successful. I sell out all over the world. I can take this opportunity to like promote. It's kind of boastful to do something like this, in my opinion. Like, it shows like the wild place that we are in right now. Because I don't think a festival promoter would have even dreamed of doing something like this. I don't care what the argument was, 10, 15 years ago. I just don't think it happens. And maybe it has no effect on him going, maybe he did the calculation and was like, look, I don't really care about a relationship with Rock Nation because the clout that I'm going to gain by, with Uzi's fans and with the Twitter community is more important to me than this Rock Nation relationship.
Did he end up streaming his performance then?
I have no idea. I mean, I doubt it. If they say, I don't think he wants the lawsuit that comes with that. If he did and they weren't supposed to, because then, yeah, you can act tough on Twitter and get the likes and get the clout. But then if you go ahead and actually stream it, and they didn't want you to, and they hit you in your pocket for millions of dollars, was that really worth it?
Yeah. And at this point it could, it's one of those things where I hate when people throw the word lawsuit around, because it's like, you took my beat that would have cost $49 and you use it, I'm going to sue you. Like, no, you're not. But when we're talking about Rolling Loud, 80,000 people in attendance, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars generated. Yeah, they could hit you in your pockets pretty hard. The other thing too is, This is a modern thing. Our ability to reach all these people and create news ourselves, we couldn't do that 20, 30 years ago. We needed to go through publicists. So the things we said had to be way better thought out. Way better thought out. Nowadays, our tweet can go viral and no one can know who the hell we are as long as the tweet is compelling. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be vetted. It doesn't have to be expressed in a way that's professional or respectful. And I don't think his tweet was respectful or professional, regardless of how upset he was, regardless of whether or not he was in the right or in the wrong. The problem also comes up that because, 20, 30 years ago, we couldn't express ourselves in a way that was meaningful. The fact that now we can means I don't want to say it's empowered people, but it's given people a better chance at, if they in fact are in a situation in which they're being treated unjustly, to express that. And on a small level, I would say, like, when my car dealership was pissing me off, I tweeted about how they were pissing me off and they weren't getting back to me. All of a sudden they saw that damn tweet. I got the new manager calling me up. Hey man, how can we handle this? Couldn't have done that 20 years ago. I would have just been treated like a hoe by this car company. But the problem is, the bigger the person that's sending the tweet, the more viral it is. And then we have no idea what the hell the truth is or not. Right. And people can abuse that system. So it ends up being a matter of whoever has the most active and engaged following ends up winning. It's not about who is telling the truth or not. So it's a mixed bag once again. And
yeah, I mean, and I think separate from this situation, again, because we don't know the details, like, it just frustrates me that, the goal for a lot of people online is clout, and people are willing to be as disrespectful as they can in order to get that. And people support disrespect. It's so wild to me that the era that we're in, one, that the clout is the goal, and that people will do anything to get it, and that people will support people being super extra or disrespectful to get it. It just sucks, man. I really don't like, I mean, obviously social media does a lot of good, but it sucks when, people are praising other people for being super disrespectful. And you have to be careful with this. Like, if you're a person that's playing with it, like, yeah, you have to really balance, like, your online world with your real life world, right? Like, you might be getting points from your followers for being super disrespectful, but the people that you go into a meeting with saw that as well. And, you might hurt some real relationships or some business opportunities because you were just trying to get clout online. And I hate that word too, because you were trying to get clout, you are fucking up your actual business opportunities. So as you climb in the music industry, you have to really be careful with what you're doing. Yeah, it might be fun and games, in the beginning, and you were just trying to get extra likes and extra followers and extra attention. But, it could really mess things up for you as you achieve more success in the music industry.
Yeah, and you'll never know, in most cases, whether or not you've done damage, because people aren't going to tell you. They're just going to avoid you.
Yeah, I tweeted about that the other day. I was like, like, people that are fake, like, people think they get away with being fake or just being bad people. People think that other people don't know that you're fake. Well, when's the last time you got an opportunity sent to you or somebody asked you to do something? It's probably been a while. You want to know why? Because people know you're fake as shit. Like, that's why you think you're getting away with it. But if you think about it, nobody's hitting you up for anything. People know that you're not a good person. You do bad business, or that you're extremely fake. So you're not that slick. You're not that. It's crazy because go ahead, Payne.
No, I mean, it is crazy. I see it all the time. There are people that I know for a fact are bad mouthing people in a certain business environment, whether it's music, whether it's something else, and everybody knows that about them. And I think it could work for a while where people excuse that kind of behavior, but ultimately, no one desires to be around that person. No one is going to choose them first for an opportunity if they have one. And unfortunately, if that person responds to that lack of opportunity with just more anger and more bitterness and more bad mouthing of their peers and colleagues, it's just going to get worse for them. They're going to find themselves more isolated. They're going to find themselves in a position where they're surrounded with people just like them, angry, bitter people who are upset because they're not given opportunities, but are not given opportunities because they're constantly upset, blaming everyone else, talking shit about everyone else. And it's just this ugly cycle. And that, I hope if you're stuck in that kind of cycle, you get out of it. I've talked about being stuck in that cycle before. When we were younger artists in the city, just starting problems with people because we felt like we deserved their spot on that stage, or we deserved their media connects to be writing articles about us, not them. But guess what we didn't do? We didn't walk up to them and shake their hands and form relationships with them. We didn't go to their events and talk to their promoters and form relationships with them. We didn't invite the media out to our events and have conversations with them and open up the lines of communication. And once we started doing that, it was this magical transformation where we realized that we weren't actually being overlooked, slept on, or blackballed. We just weren't working that hard or doing the right things. And in addition to that, we were treating people poorly and being negative, and no one wanted to give us opportunities when we were in that state. So it seems like common sense, but it sure as hell isn't.
Yeah. No, it's all bad. The last thing that I wanted to rant about today, since I've been in the music industry, I've just encountered more weird interactions, like the weirdest interactions with people. And I think artists have for too long used an excuse of, oh, I'm kind of supposed to be quirky. Like, I'm just an artist. Like artists are supposed to be a little weird. And when I say weird, I mean just countless times people overselling what they can do, not showing up on time, like communication is just terrible. They just tell you things, they never follow through, like just the weirdest interaction. And yeah, it was different for me because I came from a world that was totally not like that. Like the corporate environment, is totally different than, music. But, I think a lot of artists don't work on their emotional intelligence because they think they should be allowed to be a little bit quirky or a little bit creative. But I think who they're comparing themselves to, like if you're comparing themselves to a big star like a Kanye or whatever, yeah, they can get away with a lot of bullshit because they have huge teams of people and there's so much money invested that there's his foundation is different. However, being weird or lacking emotional intelligence in the independent community can make or break your business. It can fuck up relationships that you need to actually pay your bills. You're not playing the same game that Kanye's playing. You're not playing the same game that these big stars are playing. You being weird is the difference between being a full-time musician and not. Kanye being weird is just, it's accepted. And, if you think he's weird, I mean, I have no idea. Like, I don't want people attacking me about, Kanye's just the first person that came to my mind because he is a little different, but you can't mimic Kanye because you're not Kanye. You don't have the resources Kanye has. You don't have the type of people around him that Kanye has. So you cannot be this way. It's much more riskier for an independent artist to lack emotional intelligence. Let me stop saying weird, to lack emotional intelligence than it is for somebody that's already made it. So what I would encourage all artists to do is to work, because emotional intelligence is a skill, self-awareness, self-regulation, like it's a skill. And in order to work on it, I don't have a class that I'm selling you, but I'm sure that you can Google, read some books to become aware of how you communicate, how people receive your communication, right? Like you're trying to communicate something, but what somebody's hearing could be something totally different, right? There's sometimes a gap in that communication, and you need to understand that gap, understand yourself so that you can minimize that gap and actually communicate what you're trying to communicate. So I've seen it time and time again. There's a ton of artists that are super weird, or my bad, lack emotional intelligence. That needs to be a key focus for an independent artist, especially if you're running your own business. It has to be a key focus. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, please Google that right now and figure out how to work on it, right? You're going to need a lot of people. I guess not a lot of people around you, but I think the way to work on emotional intelligence the best is to get feedback, right? You need feedback from people on how your tone is when you talk, right? The emails that you write, your posture, your mannerisms. You need that feedback so you know how people are receiving your energy and what you're trying to communicate to people. So I think it's extremely important. I don't think it's ever been something that has been suggested to artists. So if this is the first time hearing it, just understand that this is very important because many of you are being weird. I don't know how else to say it. I really don't know. I don't know what other word to put in there. But if you want to work on it, Google emotional intelligence and go through whatever exercises are suggested or read whatever book, because to me, it can make or break your career. You can't lean on, oh, I'm just an artist. He's supposed to be that way. She's supposed to be that way. Nah, that's not going to cut it. It's going to break your business unless you're a huge star and you have a ton of resources around you.
Isn't that kind of fucked up though, that we say unless you're a huge star, you can't really be emotionally unintelligent? Because what that ultimately means is you can be an asshole if you got money and fame, and it's true. It is true.
I mean, and
it's true.
It isn't right, but that's just how our society is. That's how capitalism works. Like more people will put up with your bullshit if you pay them, but even if you're a huge star, I would encourage you not to be an asshole and to work on your emotional intelligence. Like it
becomes an Ellen situation, which is like, it's not going to hurt her pockets at all, but everyone is saying she's an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, huge stars fall off the platform too. I mean, they fall. They have, they can fall down too. And if as they're falling, if you fucked with people on the way up, like if you messed with a lot of people and they didn't like you, guess what they're gonna do on the way down? Like, oh, I got you. Just kidding. Keep falling. Like you're gonna fall a lot faster if people didn't enjoy working with you on the way up. So however tall your climb is, it's going to be a hard drop. So don't rest on like all this stuff, like, because people can learn this. I know that young people grow up different these days. Like they're in front of their computers on their phones. So they're kind of like probably have less human interaction than we had growing up. But a lot of this stuff can be learned. It can be learned. You just have to be aware that it should be something that you should learn. So
isn't that crazy, Dave? Sorry to cut you off. This is more like developmental psychology or something, but isn't it crazy that we are evolving as humans into outputting behaviors and communication styles that aren't grounded in emotional intelligence? So in other words, we're treating people poorly, but we still have this desire and this need to be treated better than that. As we interact with people less and less, we can tweet. I could wake up today and say I'm like 19. I could wake up to, and this is not to knock 19-year-olds. Just I was raised with technology too, just not in the same way. I could wake up tomorrow, tweet 5 artists and Rock Nation and tell them, I could tweet Uzi and say, why didn't you let us stream your trash? I'm never going to listen to you again. And then tweet Rock Nation and, say, fuck your CEO. And then, post a TikTok about how I hate my grandma, and then go to the Starbucks and the woman at the window doesn't smile at me, and then I tweet about how I can't believe people mistreat people so much, and why is everyone so mean? You know what I mean? It's just a weird time. It's so everyone's mistreating each other, and no one wants to be mistreated, and everyone's outraged, but no one's changing themselves. And I'm exaggerating, of course. This is just a hot take, right. And I shouldn't be making hot takes, but yeah, I very rarely talk to a person, and this has nothing to do with generation now. Everyone can be an asshole at any age, and take zero accountability. I talk to so many people. The people that I talk to who are upset at the way they're being treated often are just being shitty to other people, and it's coming back to them.
But you need people in your life that can check you and say that. Like, that's why feedback is so important, right? Like, because you can feel a certain way about what people are doing to you, but like, who's going to tell you how what you're doing to other people is being received, right? Like, right.
And the internet is amazing for that. I mean, I can have someone send me a tweet right now that says, "Yo, Payne, fuck you, you're ugly and a bitch," and I'll make fun of how their grammar, how they misspelled all of their words in their tweet. And then, oh, now you want to bully people. Okay, I see you hurt. I see you in your feelings. It's like, bitch, what are you talking about? And that's why, again, I'm not saying I'm going to do this because I don't do this anymore, but that's why you do not respond to those kinds of tweets or comments or anything. See them for what they are. It's a losing battle. It's not a dialogue, and it's not an argument you can win, because you are arguing against a person's lack of logic, lack of self-awareness, and convoluted ego. And that's all it is. And your life is worth more than that. Your energy is more valuable than that.
Yeah. I just hope people have real people in their life that, again, can just give them honest feedback on, just how they're perceived, just what their energy is when they walk into a room, what their energy is on a Zoom call. Like, everything, there's so much that's being communicated that's not verbal, right? How you write your emails. All this stuff can make or break your business as an independent artist, and can open or close opportunities that come your way if you don't understand, your own communication and energy and how it's affecting people. Because some of you guys are throwing people way the fuck off with just weird stuff. And yeah, you could be the most talented person in the world. But again, you're not playing the same game that big stars are playing, right? If you want a better chance at having a successful business as an independent artist or a producer, you have to build healthy relationships. And I just have had the weirdest encounters since I've been in the music industry. Like, my friends outside of the music industry, when I tell them what happens, like, they sometimes don't even believe me. They're like, and then they ask me, "What are you still doing there?" And then I don't have a good answer for them. I was like, I don't know. I'm stuck, man. I'm stuck. I'm trying to get out, but I'm stuck.
You are trying to get out.
Well, yeah, I mean, with the comedy, I mean, I'm still in entertainment, but with the comedy stuff, we're trying to inch over into television and film. I mean, I'll still do stuff in music, because even the stuff that I'm doing within comedy, there's a lot of music opportunities or ways to intertwine the two. But there's,
you can't leave.
But I'm not trying to manage music artists, and I'm not trying to sign music artists. Like, it's just out of the question at this point, because of what I've seen and experienced. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, but yeah, that was my rant for the day. Google emotional intelligence, see what courses are out there, see what books are out there. On the next podcast, I'm going to do some research and come back with some resources for young people and old people that haven't worked on their
Also, I
emotions.
think sometimes it's called interpersonal intelligence too. So if that's another resource that you're looking for, I think
Yeah.
that's the model. There. Oh God, what is it? Now I
Or
got
interpersonal dynamics. Um, yeah. The class I took when I was in business school, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, we called it touchy feely. I think it was like formerly called interpersonal dynamics, but we called it touchy feely. But it was really just a class where we just talked to each other. Like we got in groups and we talked about controversial topics. We gave feedback on everything, all of our dialogue. You
Oh, that's
know,
interesting. That's
you
dangerous, but it's interesting.
yeah. So we would talk about, race related stuff. And then the type of feedback would be like, well, you made me feel this way when you said this, like this, or when you sat up in your chair or puffed your chest out or whatever. Like you got feedback on how you communicated. So, I'm not a pro at this. I think emotional intelligence is something that you constantly work at because you're going to meet different people with different experiences. So you're not always going to be well equipped to deal with everybody. But just being aware that it's a tool that you should have in your tool belt or a skill that should be continuously worked on. I think you're way ahead of the game if you're just aware of that. So yeah, it's crucial. It's crucial in music, crucial in life, crucial in your relationships. So hopefully this is something that, sparks a change in some folks listening to this podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking of the I think his name is Howard Gardner and the theory of multiple intelligences. Anyway, I learned a lot about that when I was in school, but excuse me. Yeah, I think we need to normalize having that kind of dialogue with the people around us and then responding positively and being open to that dialogue and listening first and responding way after. That being said, though, we are running out of time, and I have to prepare to be emotionally intelligent on my live stream on BeatStars, which goes down twice a month. Or sorry, twice a week, Monday and Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's free and open to the public, beatstars.live, and you can also get an alert every time we go live. Dame, how do they get that?
You can text MEC to 844-206-7800 and you'll get an alert right before we go live. We make it super easy, super simple, but these sessions are super dope. So tap in with us. There's some highlights on our Instagram page. You can check out what we do. But I would encourage all producers and artists to tap in because it's free and the people that we bring on are dope. So there's no reason not to.
Yeah, once again, appreciate you for tuning in. Peace.
Peace.